Hello everyone and welcome to the demonstration video. In this video we're going over Word Chapter 2, basically all about formatting and customizing your documents. So in Chapter 1 we did go over the setup and the terminology I'll be using for navigating each of the applications for Microsoft. We went over how the ribbon works, how to save a document, and how to do some just simple typing in text into the document and some very simple formatting. You were also introduced to the show and hide, so just make sure you're comfortable with those. Show and hide will be very important, especially for the skills we'll be using today. All right, once more, if you want to follow along with notes, I did provide the skeleton notes that you could access in the Chapter 2 resources. It'll look a little something like this. These are the skills I'll be going over for this video. And for this demonstration, we'll be using the demo documents, resume 2. So just make sure you have that downloaded. For instance, let me go ahead and download it. I just click on the little button and it's downloaded to my folder. If you want to open it, you can directly select on it here in the downloads. If not, you could go to your File Explorer, or where you have your files, where you can navigate to your files, and it should always be in your downloads folder. So just make sure you open this up, and always when you download any of the documents I provide for you, click Enable Editing. Alright, now again, for these videos I do not go over the assignments instructions line per line. I don't go over directly, but the skills I do show you here do align with what you will be using in the assignments. So you could follow along with the demo or practice with your assignment. All right. Now, if you're following along specifically with this demo and you have Resume 2 downloaded, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so you should have made your own little resume and you're actually going to go in and edit it using these skills. All right, so to get started, let me go ahead and zoom in so we're just to one page. There we go. All right, so you could type out your resume, and the one you created is also looking probably very drab. That wouldn't actually be something that you would want to submit for applying to a job. Unfortunately, that's just looks are appealing when it comes to the job application process. Now, the skills I show you actually will really help with one, making your resume look really nice, or any document really nice. I'm just using a resume since it's very applicable. So one, it makes it look really nice. You can mess around with these different skills. And also, it helps with making your resumes readable. You could skip this part if you would like, but just know that your resumes, unfortunately, some of them will be read by, let's say, robots. Sometimes companies, they'll use something which will just scan through your resume. So there's resume scanners. And depending on how it's formatted, sometimes if you do something really weird with it, it will not read text appropriately. So sometimes it'll miss out on all of your nice attributes, all of your nice skills. Sometimes, depending on how you format the document itself, that scanner, that robot, will completely skip through it, and it will not qualify you for the position. So that's what happens when you're not using certain formattings properly. The skills I show you here will help with your resume being readable to those robots. So you could really, punch them in the gut and show the company, hey, I'm worth being interviewed and I'm worth being read. All right, so keep that for food for thought. Okay, now let's actually get to some of these skills. So one of your biggest tools you could use is something called a theme. So themes, I'm going to direct you up here to the ribbon to your design tab. There we go. And in your design, you'll notice that you got a lot more nice stuff here to mess around with. All the way on the left, you'll see a drop-down button. So notice it only gives you a drop-down called Themes. If you click on the drop-down, there's different themes you could apply for your paper. If you hover over each one, you'll notice that nothing's changing on the screen. Usually you'll get a preview, but nothing's really changing. Well, actually, there we go. Some of them do change. So others, it'll just be very simple. But notice it changes the style and how the font looks. There's a lot of other things that theming will do, but I'll show that in a moment. But just know that it will give you a certain set of fonts, colors, and styles. I'll mention what that is in a moment. To apply to your entire document. So notice I didn't have to select all the text for it. If you select a theme, it will change the entire document. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead and select any theme. Let me do this one called Circuit. So I'll just go ahead, hover over it, click, and it's applied to the entire document. All right. So those are themes you could choose. If you want very specific alterations to the theme, there's still more you could choose up here. So notice all of this here is just different versions of that single theme. And if I click on the drop down, the style set, there are a lot more. So just keep that in mind. Now I'll mention what the colors mean in a moment, but for now let's skip to our next feature. So once you have a theme, this is where things get cool. So go back to your Home tab. Anytime the assignments mention something called a style, it's not necessarily mentioning about the formats that we talked about in Chapter 1. Actually, in your Home tab, there's a whole group called Styles. Go ahead and click on the drop down for the styles real quick. Don't click on any options, just take a look at it. What styles are is basically indicating what kind of text is being displayed. For instance, you'll see that one is called title. Oh, and when I hover over it, you saw that the text changed. So if your document has a title, like in this case, maybe this person here that we're writing the resume for, Rochelle Wilkinson, maybe that's the title of our document. And if we want to tell Word, hey, this is my title, you could go over here to the styles and just click on title. And again, make sure you have that text selected first, but do notice that it changes how it looks. And now every time I click into that line, into that text, you'll notice that the style title here is changed. It is highlighted. And if I click to any other text, it's normal. So there's title. Let's go here to this underlined text. So we have different sections of our resume, like profile, experience. This won't necessarily be a title, that's way too grand, but it could be a heading, like heading 1. When I select it, notice it's smaller than the title, but it is stylized as such. I could select the experience down here and also apply heading 1. And notice only those have heading 1 styles. Everything else has normal. I could go here to the education and apply the same thing. Heading 1, skills, heading 1, references, heading 1. There we go. And there's a lot of others you could choose from. There's subtitles. You could add certain quotes, but these are different stylings you could apply to the document. Even down here, the head teacher, I could just select that text and do heading 2. There we go. And it gives me this look to that specific text. There we go. So this is what it means when I apply the title style to a certain text. It means select the text, go to your Home tab, and in the Styles group, select the specific style I indicate. All right. So it's not just good for making it look bigger and bolder, making text look bigger and bolder or different look, but it also applies to your theme. So we're going to jump back to the idea of themes. Go back to your design tab. And for this, here, go and whatever theme you chose, click one of its versions, and you'll notice the text that we applied a style to changes. Some of them have certain colors. Some of them, there we go, like this one here, actually starts putting in really fancy underlining and numbering. This is the benefit of using styles and themes. So every time you have set your text with certain styles and you change the theme, those styles are going to change. So the styles and themes are interlinked with each other. All right. Let me choose one that has some color to it. So I'm going to choose this basic one. If your current theming doesn't have an option for colors, you could go and find a different theme that does provide one. But go ahead, choose one with a certain colors to it. And if there's certain things you want to change about the colors, let's say, oh, I don't want, like right now, mine is green, you could still change it. Over here on the left side of the document formatting, you'll see that there's colors. If you click on the colors drop down, you have different palettes you could use. So let's say I don't want green, I want more red. You could choose red, orange, and it changes for the document. And depending on the styles that were applied, again, the colors could change. There's a whole bunch of other palettes you could use. And of course, if you want to explore further, there's very specific customizations you could apply. All right. Same with fonts. Let's say you like the setup, but you don't like the fonts that's being used. You could still change it for your theme. Just click on the fonts, and then you could choose which one does work for you. Like, ooh, maybe I like Corbel better. Let me click it. There we go. All right. So just keep that in mind. You do have very specific themes you could apply for your document for whatever your needs are, but you could still tweak it to how you would like. And even then, let's go back to our Home tab. Even then, you could select text and still apply your bold, underline, italics and underline. So that style isn't set in stone. You could still change it. All right, so those are applying styles and themes. Let me show you something real quick about editing styles. So one thing is, again, you could select certain text and you could still change the font size. Again, you could change the number here in your Home tab font group. The number, you could change it. Another quick way to do that, if you need to increase the size, you'll have these two icons, increase font size with an A and an up arrow, or decrease font size. Same thing, A, but a down arrow. And you'll notice it changes your number in certain increments. So again, you can still change the size. Let's say like here with the heading 1 styles, let's make it bold and just a little bigger. So I'm just gonna hit the increase font size once. All right. So maybe, oh cool, I want to keep this heading 1, how this heading 1 looks, but you're probably thinking, okay, if I want that, I have to go to each one and also bold and increase the text size. You don't need to. There's a couple of shortcuts you could take. Let me show you the first one. Go ahead, select the text that you want to take your formatting from. So like in this case, profile, it has setting 1, and it's bold, and has font size 18. All right. Now, so once you've selected, go over Home tab all the way to your left side. This is usually your copy and paste group. If you're familiar with how to do it on your keyboard, copy and paste, you could use that. Or, of course, here you could copy text and then you could go to other areas of the document and paste it with this button. Those symbols we're not actually going to work with right now. Instead, you're going to find something with a little paintbrush symbol and it says Format Painter. Go ahead and double click it. Okay, and you'll see that it is highlighted, and when I move my mouse to the document, it turns into a little paintbrush. Maybe hard to see, but it should have a little paintbrush symbol. And this is your Format Painter, and anywhere you click, it'll apply the format to the line or text you chose. So for instance, if I want to get this and put it to my experience, notice I just clicked on the word and it changed the format. Do be careful. For instance, if I click down here to this line, that entire line, it changes that same format. Again, you could undo with the button up here or do Control Z. All right, so just be careful where you're clicking that Format Painter into. And notice when I actually undid it, I don't have my little paintbrush anymore, and the little paintbrush up here is no longer highlighted. So just again, make sure you select the text you want to get the format from, so that's whatever styling you did, select it. In your Home tab, go to the left side, that little paintbrush, and double click. Double clicking means that it'll consistently be a paintbrush. Otherwise, if you click it once, it'll just keep disappearing every time you apply it once. That's why I recommend double click. All right, and again, you could either select the text you want to apply it to, or just click into the line. So let's do education, skills, and references. There we go. And if you want to turn off your little Format Painter, so get rid of the little paintbrush, just go up to that paintbrush symbol, click once, and it should be deselected, and notice no more paintbrush. So that's one way you could apply the themes. It doesn't happen just for styles. It could be normal text, and the same could still apply. So make use of that Format Painter. Another way, so this one does apply for styles. Let's say, here we go. So this heading 2 here, let's go ahead, let's select it, and let's also make it bold. And let's decrease this text size. There we go. Okay. So we kind of changed how heading 2 looks, and we want to apply it to the rest of the document, anything with heading 2s. Again, you could use the Format Painter, but you'd have to go through and click everything. Or, again, this only applies for styles. Go up to the Styles group in your Home tab. Find the style that you want to apply the changes to, or you applied the changes to. So in this case, heading 2, we have this different look to it. We want to apply to the rest, so go to that option, right click, and you'll find a button for Update Heading 2 to match selection. What that means is, hey, this change that I made for heading 2, I want to apply to everything else. Make sure your insertion point is at that selection, or you could select that text as well. There we go. Now let's go back, right click on the heading 2 option and do Update Heading 2 to match selection. There we go. And it changes all of our heading 2s. So that one is very specific to certain styles. Keep that in mind. So you have different options. One of them is just a right click and change. The other, you have a paintbrush. Depends on your preferences. Okay. So that was messing around with styles and theming. Let's get to some other things. So for margins in your document, you're going to go to your Layout tab. Okay, and you'll see all the way on the left a button for margins. Now what margins are is basically the space between the content of your text and the side of the paper. If you want to see the size of your margins right now, and actually I do recommend doing this, if you don't have this little ruler thing underneath your ribbon or along the side of your screen, go to your View tab, and here in the Group Show, make sure your ruler checkbox is marked. So if you have it off, the screen will look like this. If you turn it on, you'll see a little ruler up above. Go back to your Layout tab. All right. Now, the ruler actually shows the actual dimensions of your page and the actual measurements. So right now you'll see that, hey, from the edge of the page, looks like we got a good couple of an inch or so from our text and the page itself. And you'll see when you click on margins, there we go. I usually recommend students to go to the custom margins, but do know there are presets that you could apply. For instance, there's the normal, where everything, the top, bottom, and sides of the page will all have 1 inch margins. So if you do select it, notice some of the text is shifted over because the previous version was actually what was it? I forget, I think it was 0.125. All right. There's other margins you could choose. For instance, narrow, select it, and notice since it was 0.5, it really expands into the space. If you have specific margins in mind, click in your margins, drop down again, and go all the way down to custom margins. There we go. Now, here is where different dialog boxes occur for you. So some of these options, some options you may have to do some features will be within these little boxes, and also help you navigate these, but just keep that in mind. All right. But for margins, you'll see that you could indicate the size here within the top, bottom, left, and right. And to change it, you could either use the up and down arrows to increase it or decrease it. Notice you get a little preview here, very nice of them. Or you could just type in the number. So for instance, if I want a 0.75 inch margins, you could put 0.75. You don't have to do the little quotations. You could just leave it as is. By default, Word will change it to inches. All right. And let me do the rest for everything else. So I could just go to the bottom, 0.75, left, 0.75, and the right, 0.75. And when you're done, make sure you hit OK. There we go. So now all of our margins are 0.75, and you can see up here, if you read the ruler, the space in between our content and the side of the page, the edge of the page, should be 0.75 inches. All right, so those are your margins. One other thing to note, if your assignment asks you about something with vertical alignment, go to your margins and go to custom margins. From here, you'll notice there's tabs up here along the top. Go click on your layout. There we go. And you'll see in the middle, there's a section called page, and there's an option called vertical alignment. If you click on the drop down, you have certain options according to what the assignment asks. For instance, there's justified, which the fun thing about this, if I click it, and remember, click OK to apply it. The fun thing about having justified alignments is it will fit whatever text you have in the screen to fit everything, to fit the page. So notice everything has expanded so it could stretch out in the page. Hint, if you're making a resume and let's say sometimes when you type in information, it may not fit the entire page, so it makes it look very sparse, especially if you have a lot of space on the bottom. But if you do justified alignment, it could expand it a little bit to make it look like you have a lot. Of course, make sure you try to put in all of your skills into that resume. But if you do need just a little bit of padding, you could make use of that alignment. All right. Let me go ahead and undo it. So back to my layout, justify, let's just do top. So everything goes towards the top. There we go. And you see it squishes in, so it keeps everything up to the top. Just keep that in mind, some food for thought. All right, but those are your margins. Now, for resumes, let's take a look down here. Okay, so we have certain experiences for certain positions, and of course you want to put in your skills listed below. Let me turn on the show and hide, so home tab, paragraph group, and the backwards P symbol. All right, so notice, and for your project as well, you had to list your skills with paragraph breaks. This is very important when we talk about bullet points or numbered lists. Make sure you have these paragraph breaks if you want to turn something into bullet points. Otherwise, this will not work as you would expect. All right, let me turn off the show and hide. So just make sure you have those paragraph breaks. And then you're going to select the text. So usually we don't want our resumes to be just normal line by line. You want it to be bullet points. Makes it easier on the eyes to see. So select the stuff you do want to turn into bullet points. And when you turn on your show and hide, there we go. Make sure you select the paragraph breaks as well. All right. So you've selected it, and now in your home group, paragraph group, you'll see the little button for bullets and just hit it. There we go. And your text is already formatted to bullet points. And notice it separates it by those paragraph breaks. There you go. Otherwise, if it was just a line break, it would be within the same bullet point. So keep that in mind. Okay, so those are very simple bullet points. Numbering list is basically the same idea. If I click on numbering list, there we go. You'll see basically the same idea. But let's just do this normal bullets. We usually want our resumes to be just normal bullet points. If you want a specific style, so you don't want just these little circles, although they do work for resumes. Very nice, very simple. But if you want something a little more with pizzazz, click on the drop down, and there is more bullet points you could use, some more symbols, such as you have these little, I have these little triangles, but for you there may be others, but you could do those little other ones. There's this fancy chevron you could use, or open dots. All right. So there's other kinds you could use. For your assignment, there's going to be a very specific symbol I would like you to use. Actually, it's those little sideways triangles. To get that, pay attention very closely. So select the bullet points you have, click on the drop down, and choose the last option, Define New Bullet. There we go. Now, what this will do is it will allow us to design how these bullet points work. So you could actually use different symbols. So the bullet character is a symbol used for each bullet point. You could click on symbol. So for your assignment, click symbol, and you're brought to this. This can be kind of hard to navigate, but I'll break it down real quick. The font here is basically just, you could think of it as different sets of symbols. So I could click the drop down, find certain fonts. There we go. And you can see that the symbols change here. If you want to explore more, this isn't just the normal set. You can either expand your window to see more at a time, or along here on the right, you'll see a little slider. Your scroll on your mouse will not work, so you have to actually click and drag it. It will not immediately change, but if you let go, it takes you to a different section. I mostly recommend using the up and down arrows. This one's a lot easier. All right. But yeah, so you'll see different selections based on the fonts you choose. If there's a specific one you have in mind, you could go into the box and edit. There we go. Whoa. Okay, don't hit enter. But you could always go in, type in the font group you want, and then you'll see, there we go. Don't hit enter, just click away, and then you'll see the group down here. All right. So there's different symbols you could choose from. Usually for in the assignment, I'll give you a symbol to use, but the easiest way to navigate it, so there's a lot of symbols, the easiest way to navigate it is actually down here in the character code. I'll provide you with a code and you could just type it in. So let's say maybe it's 150. Oh, nope, actually not that. But you could type in the character code and it'll take you immediately to that symbol. Let me do something fun like this little diamond. There we go. But anytime you change the character code, it goes to that symbol. And you could click OK if you found it. You'll see a little preview here and click OK once more to apply it. And now my bullet points, they're not just circles, they're little diamonds. And once more, you don't have to keep on doing those steps for each bullet point. You could do your format painter and go ahead and click and drag across the text you want to apply your bullet points to. All right. Let's deselect our format painter. There we go. So already looking very nice with our document already from where we started off. But those are how to apply bullet points and make it look really nice. The same would apply for numbered list. I advise you explore that in your own time. But there's a lot of things you could do with numbered lists. All right. So those were bullet points. Let's do something else to help you with your project. Something else is something called tab stops. So you'll notice with some resumes, like for our positions here, usually you'll have things like, let's say the position name, and either on the other side you'll have a location or certain dates. So sometimes there's this information and stuff you will include with your positions or your experience. All right, but you've probably seen resume formats where this part, so like in this case, this is a location or the company, and the dates in which you were doing that position are usually on the other side of the screen. Let me turn on the show and hide real quick. And you'll see, there we go. This one has a tab and this one's kept normal. So let's focus here on the one with the tab. So sometimes what I've seen students do to get stuff to the other side of the screen is they'll either just add in a whole bunch of spaces or they'll keep tabbing over until it's to the other side. The problem is, let's say if I hit tab once more, you'll see that the text overflows to the next line, which could be a little sloppy. Of course, you could delete it and then just do some spaces to get it through. Oh, and then delete. But if you need to change anything with, let's say, how the text looks, or you need to change the size, it overflows once again. So this method not only doesn't make it sloppy when editing your document, but also remember that robot that's scanning through it, the little program scanning through your resume. This could actually prevent it from reading certain information. So let's get rid of that. There we go. When you get to tables in one of the chapters, I've seen some students use tables to also get stuff to the other side of the screen. Same thing. One, it's not only sloppy, but also scanners can't read through it. So what do we do? Well, there's something called tab stops. Let me show you first how it works, and then I'll explain some very specifics. So at least for your assignment, and this is actually something you could use a lot, go ahead, select the line with the tab in it. All right. Then you're going to go to your Home tab and your Paragraph group. For the Paragraph group, you're going to open up the dialog box, which is usually this little symbol with the arrow pointing to the bottom right. This is also called settings, so each group can have its own settings. And when I click on it, there we go. Again, more options you could do for the Paragraph group. But for us, we want something called tab stops, which actually is the button on the bottom left, tabs. Go ahead and click on it. There we go. And this is how we apply our tab stops. Now, be very careful. Take this slowly when you go through this part of the assignment because it could be a little tricky. All right. Now, this part here, this box, is the tab stop position, which indicates where we want the tab stop to go. Again, I'll explain what that is, but that has to do with a specific measurement. So the measurement I give you, let's say, let's take a look here. All right, it looks like maybe let's do it to 6.5 inches. So this is why I wanted the ruler applied for your document. You could see the measurements here. So maybe I want it at 6.5 inches. Make sure you put it in this box, 6.5. Again, you don't need the quotations. Word will automatically put it to inches. Don't put it in this box, the default tab stops. This is the length that Word document automatically puts tabs to. That's not what we want to change. We want to change the tab stop position. All right, so once you have that typed in, just leave it there in that box, and then you could change the rest of the options I give you. So for your assignment, it's right, and then the leader is none. Once you have those options, click the button Set. Don't click OK yet, click Set. There we go. Again, I'll explain what that means real quick, but you should see that 6.5 here in this list. Now you could click OK, and when you click OK, magic happens. There we go. Now notice, let me click away. The tab, there's only one symbol for it, but it has expanded. It has gotten a lot bigger. And you'll see here, if I scroll up, there we go. The text has aligned itself to the 6.5 mark. And even if I change its size, it's still going to stay aligned to that mark. So what happened? Well, what tab stops are is, well, certain stopping points for your tabs. Let's go back to those options. So let me select this line again. Go back to your paragraph group, open the settings, go to tabs. There we go. So tab stops is, you'll actually see, if you have the ruler out, you'll see little symbols, and it's just basically indicating how the tab works. So you could imagine a tab stop as like an invisible line on the paper. When you tell that invisible line to be at 6.5, it could mark it at 6.5. Now what the alignment means is, where is that tab stop according to the text? So notice there's this tab here, and usually after the tab, you'll have text next to it. The question is, do we want to align that text on the right side in which we put, on the left side of which we put the stop, or the right? Or in this case, again, you could think of it as a line. Where do we want that tab stop to be? Do we want it to align on the right, that invisible line on the right of the text? Or if we do it on the left, do we want the invisible line on the left side of the text? If I do center, it'll have the text centered around that invisible line. So let me actually do that real quick. If you want to test this out, change your alignment to center, click Set, and click OK. And notice, there we go. That little invisible line, the text is centered around it. Let me hit the undo button. There we go. And let's open up the tab stops again. All right. Usually I use the right align since it's a little easier to utilize. If you do left, you'll just keep everything lined up on the left side, the text. Okay. What the leader is basically just what do you fill this tab with. So especially in the case of, here, let's go down, perfect, here to these references. Select all of the references and open up the tab stops. And notice there's already one set. This one's set to 2.5 on the page to the left. So notice everything here, each of the tabs are different sizes, but notice the text is lined up to an invisible line on the left side of it. All right. Now, to show the leader, go to, let's do this 3. So it's a bunch of little dashes. Click Set to apply that change. And when you click OK, notice now there's a bunch of little dots within those tabs. So especially if you have, let's say, a lineup like this with certain information, it'll probably good to have something to train the eye from one place to another. All right. But notice again, if you have a none leader, it just makes it, there we go, just makes it nothing, just a white space in between that you could use. So those are tab stops you could apply. Let's go back to the tabs. There we go. The reason why we set certain tabs is you could actually have multiple. So you could have multiple tabs in the same page. Depending on the order in which you add it in, that's how the tab stops will be applied. That's why we do set, because you could do another one, 2.5, and then do a whole different tab stop set. There you go, and you have 2 here. If you ever want to get rid of one, you could select it and click clear. If you want to get rid of all of them, click clear all. All right, but those are your tab stops. And once more, notice, let's do our show and hide. There we go. You could do the tab stops each one at a time, or once more, select your text, do your format painter, and then just select each line that you want to apply that tab stop to. All right. So those are tab stops. The next feature I'm going to show you, this one makes your document look a little more fancier, but something called borders and shading. Now what that is, let me turn off my show and hide, is basically if I expand my page out, our document, it looks nice as is. It's actually looking pretty okay for our resume. But if I want to make it look a little fancy, follow this with me. So for borders and shading, go to your Home tab, your paragraph group, and you're going to go to the drop down for borders. All the way on the bottom, you'll see an option called borders and shading. Go ahead and click it. There we go. Now what borders and shading will do is basically you could apply nice little exterior effects for your document or for specific things you've chosen. Right now we'll just focus on the page itself, but let's say, make sure you click on, so there's borders and shading, make sure you click on the page border. There we go, so page border tab. And I'm going to have you click on box. There we go. So these are different, again, exterior things you could do with your document. And there's different styles you could do. You could see an example here of how it's going to start looking. For instance, maybe I just want a normal line. If I want a specific color, you could change that here. So let's do, here, I'm going to do this nice blue. There we go. And to make it visible for you to see, the width is just how thick that line's going to be. So if I do 2 1/4 point, there we go. You'll see that it gets bigger. Make sure it applies to whole document, so it does it to the entire page. And click OK and watch. There we go. As there's a giant border applied to your page. So this is something you could mess around with. Again, Home tab, Paragraph Group, go to your Borders drop down, go to Borders and Shading. And once more, I do recommend doing the Page Border tab. And let's say if we want to change it to shadow, you just click to shadow and then change certain parts of it. You could also do certain art. We have some cheesy things here like, oh, let's do pine trees. And if you click OK, now everything's lined up with pine trees. All right, let's change that. So let me actually undo so it's not much of a bother of our eyes. Again, that's something you could utilize for the entire page. This next thing I'll show about borders and shading isn't in your assignment, so you could skip to the next feature if you would like, but if you want to stick around to see something cool, be my guest. All right, real quick, borders and shading doesn't just apply to the entire document. Let's get this profile. So this is kind of our goals and objectives when it comes to a resume or a brief explanation about yourself. You could apply borders and shading to just specific parts of your document. So like here, let me select the area with the profile and the text and make sure you have that paragraph break selected. Okay, now go back to those borders and shadings options. And this one, you can just stick it to the borders tab. All right, and let's do a shadow. So shadow option. And same thing, you could change the style of that border. You could change the color. Let's keep it to the blue theme. And the width, let's decrease it. All right. And make sure it has paragraphs selected. You'll see what that does. Paragraphs will take this entire group and put it within its own little box. If you do text, it does all of the text individually line by line in boxes, which for some effects may be nice. For us, we just want all of this to be in its own box. So make sure you have it set to apply to paragraph, then click OK. There we go. And now you can see our profile is prominently distinguished from the rest of our resume. All right. So that was borders and shading. We're going to do a couple of last features. I know this is kind of an overload, but just know all these skills are stuff I highly recommend messing around with when it comes to any of your documents. All right, but the next skill we're showing is something called headers and footers. So for that, go to your Insert tab. Insert tab isn't something we've done in so far within our demonstration. So you'll see that there's a lot of different options. Right now for this, all you need to focus on is the one towards the middle, header and footer. Go ahead and click on the header. There we go. And you'll see different options we could choose from. So what headers and footers are, you could think of it as kind of like how if you've read a book, you may have certain page numbers at the very top, or maybe the chapter name, book title, and so on. This is how they implement it. So it's not with the content itself, it's within a header. So let's click on the blank header. There we go. And you'll see that now it's taken us to here, up here at the top of the page. Notice that I can't click directly into the main content. You could double click. There we go. And now I could edit the rest of the content. But if I want to get back to my header, there's two options. You could either go back to your Insert tab and click Header, or you could double click into the section. There we go. All right. And now here in headers, you could type in different parts. So I could say, this is a resume. There we go. And so on. There's a bunch of other things you could do, such as a page number. So I could do resume, comma, page, space. And I could put in a page number. So up here in your header and footers, so anytime you are in your header and footer, a new tab appears. This will be something you'll come a lot with, especially when we start working with pictures. So just keep track of your tabs in the ribbon. But in your header and footer tab, you'll see over here on the left, there's a page number option, and you can click on it. There we go. And then I recommend saying the current position, and you could choose what page numbers. There we go. So now when you look at each, let me get rid of this. There we go. So now when you look at each page, this one says page 1, which you're like, oh, okay, that's page 1. And when you go to the next, page 2. Page numbers are nice because notice any text I put here will repeat for each header. If I had put resume page 1, typed it directly in the header, then this page would also be resume page 1, which we didn't want. We want the page number to change, so always use this feature. All right. The same works for footers. So all you have to do for footers, notice once we open it up, you could just go down here to the footers and start typing in as well. Let's stay in the footers for now for this. All right. In the footers, let's do another thing called document properties. What I mean by that is if you look at your header and footer tab and you go to your insert group, you'll see something called document info. Go ahead and open it up. And at least for the sake of this demo, click on document title. You'll see that a little box appears, and right now it says title. And use your arrow keys on your keyboard, or you could click away outside of the box. So double click, and you'll see that title is put into little brackets. Now what this is actually applies to something called file properties. So first, for file properties, let me have you go to your file tab. There we go. Now, your file tab is all the options you could do for your specific file you're working on. So this is where you could also save your document. If this is your first time saving the document, you'll do save as. If you're saving it for progress, you can click the save button here as well. All right, but you'll notice there's an option called info. Go ahead and click on it. This is information directly related to your document itself. You'll see that here in the properties, this is going to be our main focus. You can see the actual size the file takes up in your computer. You can see how many pages it is. And for those of you writing essays, here's your word count. There's the total editing time, and then also there's certain properties that you could add in, such as, look, a title. These properties you could change. So like, let's say this is I forgot the person we were doing this resume for, but let's say person's resume. You just type it in and you can just click away and it's already put in with that property. If the assignment asks you to change a property and you don't see it here, no worries. Go all the way down. There's a little selection called Show All Properties. Click on it, and more will expand, such as company. Let's do Crafton Hills. There we go. Status, let's do completed. So you just type in, you just click in the box, type in, you could click away. And then when I go back, so click this little arrow on the top left, go back. There we go. Oh, and you'll see the title autofilled itself. I didn't type this in. I did not edit this video. It's gone ahead and input whatever you put in for that property, the document info, inside of this little box. All right. And if you go back to your document info, and if there's a specific property I'm telling you to include, but it's not shown here, you could do the document property selection. And let's say the company, let's go ahead and insert that. And look, it autofills with what we put in that info, Crafton Hills. There we go. So those are different properties you could do, and there's a lot more, such as if you need to put a specific time and date, and let's say you want it to automatically update to your current time, there's different formats you could choose. Click OK. There we go. And every day you edit this document, this will also change. So again, for those of you doing essays. All right. And then when you're done with your headers and footers, you could either double click into your content here, or notice in your header and footer tab, you could click close header and footer. There we go. And it's all set. Here are some last editing and styling you could do for any document you're creating, especially for resumes. All right. So one of these is, so this is already looking pretty nice, all right. But sometimes maybe, let's say, headers like our experience, education, even though we have it in a heading 1 style, different color, it's bold, maybe there are still things we would like to change about it, such as making it more prominent. One thing you could do is, I've seen some students do the underline like this, but usually underline is dedicated only for links, so providing links to other resources. We'll go over that in the next chapter. But you could use something called the borders, which the borders and shading, remember, you could do it to individual boxes or the page itself, or here in your home tab, paragraph group, notice that the borders, it isn't just the borders and shading, so you have a lot of other options, such as something called a bottom border. And when you apply it, so you could either click on the button here, which you'll notice it has a grid with a dark line below. That's the last option that you have chosen for the borders, just like how it was with the color and the highlight. But in this case, if you do the drop down and do a bottom border, it will apply to any of the text you selected. So if I select experience and we do the bottom border, notice it goes across the entire screen. So this could also provide a very good way for you to segment parts of your document or resume. Let me undo that with Control Z. You could also do a top border if you don't want that border underneath the heading. So just click on the drop down and then there's the top border, and there we go. So it looks maybe a little more together depending on how you want to style it. All right. I prefer the bottom border. There we go. And you can apply it to each heading. Same goes for any text if we do it here. If we do it here, there we go. The bottom border is applied. All right. So those are bottom borders. Something else. Let's say, like this right here. So notice, sometimes when you're going through a document, and especially stuff like this, where you have bullet points, but it's separated between 2 pages. That would be kind of hard. If I zoom out, you could see it side by side. That would be kind of hard if you print this out and they see, okay, education, bullet point, minor psychology, and it's kind of an afterthought. They'll probably just skip to the skills. You'd want to keep this all together so they don't skip out on the rest of these bullet points. And that's especially big if it's a numbered list, so steps that people could overlook. That's actually happened with some of my assignments. That'd be kind of tragic. So there is a way to get everything on the same page with each other. I do know some people, let's turn on our show and hide, who'll do that same thing with using a whole bunch of enters or spaces to get stuff to the next page. But again, if I format any size or other spacing up here, it will affect how this looks on the other page. Maybe it'll be pushed back down. Maybe we'll have the same issue where it's separated up. So let's not do these extra paragraph breaks. There is something called a line break, which, let me put this on the next line like here. If you go to your Insert tab, there we go. Sorry, not a line break. It's called a page break. So for page breaks, it's basically another white space that you can include, but wherever you place it, it'll create a barrier between the text before it, and the text after it has to go to the next page. So watch this. When I put it right here, all I have to do is insert my point wherever I want the line page break to go. So the insertion point goes there. And in your Insert tab, all the way on the left, there's a group called Pages, and there's something called the Page Break. So go ahead, click it. There we go. And notice everything goes to the next page. And actually, we don't need this paragraph break. There we go. Perfect. So it just pushes everything and keeps it all together. So you can make use of your page breaks, especially for documents where things are supposed to be together, but you want to, it breaks up with how everything is formatted. All right, so those are page breaks, and for your assignment, do make sure you have something like this when you turn on the show and hide. All right. Some final formattings are important. Something called spacing. So there's line spacing and there's paragraph spacing. For those of you who have done typed essays in the past, you've probably heard about line spacing, such as single space, double space. That's any spacing between multiple lines. So let's take a look at this paragraph up here. Actually, for practices, let's go ahead and copy this paragraph in the profile section and go ahead and do enter. So we have another paragraph, and just copy and paste it. How I did that, so if you want a quick tutorial, I highlighted over the text. I did Control C. You could also use the buttons up here in the home area. There we go. Up in the home, all the way on the left in the clipboard, there's little two pages. This one's called copy, and when you click it, it copies whatever text you selected. And here, let me delete this for now. All right, so again, paragraph break, and if you want to paste it, either you could do Control V, or in your home tab, clipboard group, that big clipboard right there, you could just click on it, paste. There we go. All right. Some other ways is you could right click, and then you have your options here, copy and paste for whatever selection you've done. Okay. So make sure we have this set, because there is a difference between line spacing and something called paragraph spacing. So line spacing is the spacing between multiple lines. So like this line here and this line here. And also with this line here. So anything within a paragraph. Remember, all paragraphs are broken up by the paragraph break. So if I select here, let me select all of this. So both of our paragraphs, go ahead and select both of them. And anytime you're changing the spacing for, let's say, an essay, you'd want to select everything. But in this case, we're just doing these paragraphs. But to do line spacing, make sure you're in your home tab, and you'll actually be here in your paragraph group. There's a button right there. So it looks like a bunch of lines with an up and down arrow. That's line and paragraph spacing. If I do the drop down, there we go, then you'll see your different options. Usually your double spacing is here, 2.0. single would be 1.0. And notice when I change it, the spacing between the lines itself change. So once I make it bigger, the spacing between the lines change. So if I do it to 2.0, there we go. Everything's a lot more spaced out. But if I do single spacing, 1 point, that also changes it. All right. Another way you could do that is, again, select the text you want to change the spacing for. Go to the paragraph group in your Home tab and go to those settings, so that little arrow on the bottom right. There we go. So this, again, more options you could choose from, but do notice here in the spacing section, there's a line spacing. They have one specific for single, which again, that's the 1 point, which it's already set to. Or if you click the drop down, there's a double spacing. So I'm going to change it back to double, click OK. There you go, and you see it expands. So again, a lot of different ways you could do. You could do the button, there you go, 1.0 and such. So that's line spacing. But notice there's a space between paragraphs as well. For instance, there's this space in between this first paragraph and this second one. You could think of it as doing little boxes around anything that is between paragraph breaks. So keep that in mind. Anything between paragraph breaks is its own paragraph. It's like an entire box. Now, if we want these boxes to go together, we need to do something called paragraph spacing. And this one is a little more trickier than the line spacing, but at least we have an easier interface, at least I would believe. Go to your Layout tab. There we go. And the Layout tab has its own paragraph group. And you'll see that here on the right area, it's spacing. This is your paragraph spacing. And notice there's a before and after. What this means is, hey, I want some cushion. The after means I want some cushion after anything after this paragraph. So if I want to change it, so I want this space to be smaller, right now it's 10 point, I could either type in a number, so you could just select and type in a number, or you could use the little arrow keys down, and notice the space between the paragraphs disappears. And when it's 0 point, it's pretty much non-existent. If I increase it, it gets bigger. If you want to see how that spacing actually works, go ahead and highlight the section you're changing and notice this big, large white area that is also included. That's not a new line, that's still a part of this paragraph you selected. So let me go ahead and decrease it. I could change it back to 10 point again. I just click in there, 10, there we go. And then the before is anything that comes before it. So again, if I do select this, there we go. Notice that there's hardly any spacing before, but if I increase that before spacing, that space gets bigger. Even more notably, so I'm going to go ahead and undo that back to where it's 0. If I select both of these paragraphs, there we go, and I increase the before, both of their before spacing increases significantly, and you could see here again with those boxes highlighted. Alright, so that's before and after paragraph spacing. Just make sure with your assignments I provide both measurements. Make sure you get it exact. It does help with how things are laid out within the document. Such as something like here. If you don't like this big space between this position and the information related to the position, I could just select it, or notice I just put my insertion point there and I just decrease the after. And now everything looks like it's a little more together. Alright, that should be it for your assignment. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to send me an email or a Canvas message. Alright, thank you.